Welcome to Life, Language, and Lyrics with me, Lena, where you can listen to conversations that I have with some of the most interesting people I know. Thank you for stopping through. Now let's get into this episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Life, Language, and Lyrics with Lena. And I'm so excited to have Carolyn Malachi with me, who's going to talk to us about Black women in music. And it's so fitting because this is African American Music Appreciation Month, or some may still be calling it Black Music Month. Thank you, Carolyn, for coming today.
Dr. Davis, thanks for having me. This is fun. This feels like I don't know if you remember a show called Frasier in the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah, you're like Dr. Frasier Crane, Dr.
Well, please feel free to call me Elena.
Okay, Elena.
Okay, so let me tell y'all a little bit about Carolyn Malachi. She is an independent performing and Grammy-nominated artist, songwriter, producer, and sound engineer. She has released multiple albums and several singles, and they are beautiful. Her academic research focuses on the intersections of sonification and blockchain technology. And as a sound engineer, she works with nonprofit organizations and independent artists while advocating for women within the music industry's technical professions. That's a lot.
Yes, it is. Okay.
No, I just gave your bio, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself and these many different roles that you have? Maybe I missed some things.
I think I am just a person whose interests are constantly evolving, but they are getting deeper as well. So I love not just music, I love sound. And I'm very curious always about ways we can turn our thoughts into actions and use those actions to create things that sustain us so that we can live whole lives, so that we can be present with our families, so that we can self-actualize. And I really take to heart the idea that, you guard your thoughts because your thoughts become your words become your actions, and your actions become your character. So I think I just am always exploring that, but in a more like tangible through sound.
That's really interesting. So how did you find your way into your artistry? And I think that this may actually lead into my next question, because the next thing I was going to ask you is what has been the role of music in your life and like how important it's been?
How did I find my way into this artistry? Well, I did skip a lot of basketball practice in undergrad. There are many times I was supposed to be at practice, but I was either like in the lab, which was my minor in undergrad was communications, and one of my first assignments in a comms course was to do sound design, basically, or like do a basic sound edit for a hypothetical radio program. And that was the first time I was able to work with a digital audio workstation, or a DAW, DAW, as we call it. And I fell in love with that. Again, just the idea of being able to imagine sound, or what a sound could become, and then to add into that creative process a meaning of some kind, or information that could be shared, whether it's just to make somebody feel better, or to make myself feel great, or to inform folks. I think super powerful. But yeah, definitely got kicked off the basketball team because I was doing much more of that than mic and drills. So
Okay. So you were finding your passion.
I was fine. And that moment, I remember that being one of it sticks with me today because that like I didn't know that it even existed until this class.
Okay.
And finding that, and I didn't sign up for that class either. My advisor signed me up for that class.
Wow.
So I've gone from that, just there are no coincidences. And so that moment basically like put me on this trajectory. And I think that's why I find also like doing this craft, but also teaching it to be very important because I mean, if had it not been for my professors in undergrad, I would be doing this, every day, just, doing what I love to do, which is living, breathing sound.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you actually kind of touched on what I was going to ask you next, because I wanted to know, how do you incorporate music into your teaching role? Do you get to teach in this specific area?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I teach in the School of Communications at
Mhm.
Howard University in the Department of Media, Journalism, and Film. And the way I see it, uh, the craft, like my doing this, my being out in the world as an artist and a producer and an engineer, allows me to bring to the classroom, to my audio production classes, which is not expressed in music production. Um, these skills allow me to bring, these activities allow me to bring transferable skills to the classroom. So
Mhm.
especially when it comes to working with any signal processing gear, microphones, etc. There's just a lot of practices and processes that carry over to media, to journalism,
Mhm.
to the filmmaking process. Uh, but with music specifically, I like to sneak in like scoring in my audio for TV and film class, or there's a class I teach called Music in Media. Or again, it's not a music production course, but it looks at crafting music for the communication of a brand message or a brand's image. And in that way, I'm able to uh, allow students who maybe applied to the School of Fine Arts and they didn't get in, and now they're in the School of Comms. This is also like a relief valve for students who wanted to, become music producers that way.
Yeah.
This allows them to get creative, but in a different context, which I think is quite powerful because it combines, not only it combines music production, it combines audio production, but it also adds into that entrepreneurship.
Mm. Oh, that's really cool. Okay.
It's fun.
So
It's a class.
now in your bio, it says that your research looks at the intersections of sonification and blockchain technology.
Yeah.
What is that?
So folks who have known me for a while are aware that I have a background in like blockchain, which many people will know as the foundational technology of Bitcoin and other
Oh,
cryptocurrency projects. It goes beyond crypto. But I created a system, a patent pending system that converts real-time feedback from digital audiences or audiences in virtual environment into sound
mm,
and to digital assets. So I got a grant to work on this project from the Interledger Foundation.
mhm.
And one very important thing that I've learned through this process, like the grant's done, the project's finished, is the one thing I've learned is that the when the landscape of new shifts quickly, there are a lot of other institutions and other entities that kind of have to catch up. So within the case of like digital assets stemming from, blockchain technology, and the idea that, trying to condense this, the idea that information would then trigger the release of a digital asset to somebody who's performing online. Because remember, during the pandemic, and artists, we lost our venues, and for a lot of us, losing the opportunity to perform in a physical environment also meant losing a significant source of income.
Yeah.
So I was trying to solve that problem. Also solve the issue of not being able to hear your audience when you're performing, not in a substantive way. So this research, I think, is great, but there are so many new rules now regarding what you can do as an entity, as a private individual, or as an entity who wants to basically send these digital assets to folks. So I think it's a great experiment, and I would love to see, an organization with, more means than I have at the moment kind of, take that on, license the idea, of course, and then develop it for broader use. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. I didn't know all of that. You could really do all of that. And so when you say like taking the feedback and turning it into sound, what exactly would be the product from that?
So the product from that is, without giving a whole lot away.
Okay.
I can say basically like what we're turning it into, the sound of an audience, so that the performer or the teacher or the athlete, whoever's using the system, which is called call and response, trademarked, so that the people who are using this can hear audiences the way that they would hear them in physical environments. And so I'll just stop there. That's the goal.
So now I can see just from, attending a talk you did in the School of C, and then even from just kind of Googling you on the internet, that you have a passion for equity and inclusivity when it comes to women and non-binary persons in the music industry. And not just the artists, but like the producers, the songwriters, and all of those who are kind of behind the scenes. So can you speak about where this comes from and the challenges that exist?
Sure. I'm happy to speak about where that comes from. And it's just, I think it comes from experiential knowledge, for one. So being in like, oh man, as an artist, constantly having the experience of, going to recording studios and being behind the microphone and noticing that everybody on the other side of the glass in the control room it's always a guy, and 90% of the time always a white male, which, for what it's worth, it's just one of those things that it raises a question. But then I also noticed there were times that I felt like I had questions about what was happening behind the boards, like why certain changes were being made to my voice or to the music, and I didn't have the vocabulary to ask those questions. So when I tried to ask those questions, I was sort of met with, I don't want to say hostility, but a little bit of resistance, or, maybe the person or the people I was talking to would either respond in an annoyed way or attempt to pacify me and say, oh, you don't need to know that. You don't need to do all of that. And being a DC native, with, knowing who I am, and having known my great-grandparents and my great-great-grandparents, that's always a red flag, for me. For you to tell me I don't need to know something, nah, I need to know. So going back to school to get my master's in audio technology specifically, and then putting myself in uneasy environments, doing front of house sound or being the sound person in a music venue. Not very much, again, the same situation, not very much support, not very much representation. And again, when I had these questions, just issues. And I realized that, it's for a lot of people, it's not normal to see a woman working in a technical role, not normal for them. And it's not their fault. Think about how many films you've seen or commercials you've seen depicting recording studio environments. What does the engineer look like? Usually a white male. So usually. And so that, that has the implications of that. Like when you don't fit that demographic or that expectation, somebody shows up to the studio, to work on something, there's a lot of questioning of ability, a lot of time wasting, which is fine because, it's not fine, but, if you want to waste your time, this is your studio time. You're paying, so please, by all means, we can debate all the things. Let's continue. You're running up your tab. It's fine with me. But also, it just makes it like a really uncomfortable situation when it could be really productive and really and very, very fun. And I also wanted to kind of like be the person that stands in the gap for the folks who do have those questions, like I did and still do, like all the time. I wanted to be able to answer those questions in a way that would be effective, that would give them the information that needed without intimidating them. And there's a lot of value to that. So, the normalization piece is important to me. So I have spent some time working on reports with, industry leaders. There's a report out called, Fix the Mix. It's available. Folks can find it on the Howard University Center for Women, Gender, and Global Leadership website. But it's pretty historic. It looks at like a decade of data about who is at these tables, who's getting the credits, and that credit piece is important because when you receive a credit on a record, when you are an engineer on a record or are a producer on a record, that's sort of like your calling card. So, for example, let's say I am the mix engineer on Beyonce's next album. And it comes out and it shatters a whole bunch of records again, and it's amazing and people love it. It's their life stories. There's the audience experience, which is, oh my God, this is fantastic. I love it. All the streams, yada, yada. But then there's the industry experience, which, is other folks in the industry looking at who did this, who did that. If they see my name, that means I have a credit on that record. And what's likely to happen? Somebody in the industry is going to say, Carolyn Malachi mixed that. I need Carolyn Malachi on this record. That's not really happening for women. That happens. It's just not happening on that level. So, and it's for whatever reason, but I think it's largely due to there being very few. I think it's for a couple of reasons. One, data shows that not you, but folks tend to promote people who share similar like gender and racial identity or just cultural identity. So if the folks are, getting the biggest opportunities in the industry don't share my cultural identity, maybe they're not promoting me, or maybe they're not giving me that. Maybe we just don't have the type of relationship where they say, you know what, Carolyn, why don't we do this record together? No malice, but maybe they're just not thinking with me.
Yeah.
So I just think it's really important to be here, be doing this work, bringing other people with me, because I was very lucky to find mentors who are actively doing that for me.
Yeah.
And there's so much I could say, but it's important. It's everybody's. There's a woman by the name of Susan Rogers. She was Prince's recording engineer. I had a chance. I talked with her recently. I was part of a group, and we were just having this conversation. And she was listening to our ideas about this report, and she said something so eloquent. She was like, "If everybody consumed music, then the representation of folks who are at the table during the music making process needs to reflect why can't it reflect everybody who's listening to it?"
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the time I'm on.
Yeah. Wow. You also made me think about just the other day, there was an interview that popped up in my Instagram feed, and I can't remember the names of the two guys that were talking, but they were talking about the Grammys and the voting process, and trying to figure out why sometimes it seems like certain or a lot of Black entertainers may get snubbed, but he was the guy, I guess that, I don't know if he worked for the Grammys or whatever, but he was saying how the representation wasn't there among the voting board, because they would have this big old group of people, but then they had these committees. And if it was people who didn't listen to any of our music, then we probably weren't getting voted for. Well, like I'm singing, but you know what I mean? But that representation is, it is key. It is key on all sides. My profession is kind of going through that also. So we are, I want to say 92% white. And this is speech pathology, and I can't remember the percentage for female to male, but it's female dominant, like beyond measure. Like at conferences, the men's restrooms turn to women's restrooms, and for the Black population, it's probably about 3 to 4%. And so there's been a lot of like discussion and action and shifting that hopefully, we'll start to see more change as well. So I think it's a lot of different areas where the representation, it matters so much, but it hasn't been happening, and it needs to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I think you might have kind of talked about this already when talking about like how we eliminate these challenges. You talked about the representation. How can those of us who are consumers also provide support?
I love that question. Title really great about listing credits. So I think find out who's making these records. Like if you find my name on a record that I mixed and you like it, you can share the record and tag me in it, mixed by Carolyn. I think folks used to do that back in the day. Maybe not, they didn't have Instagram or the internet, but folks used to look at the back of vinyls and say, oh, so-and-so played the bass on this, and then it just gets locked in. And it establishes this, perception that this person is the greatest since sliced bread, and then people talk about that. So I think it's just more about like just having, keeping these names as, just as keeping them in the conversation, these names of the people who are supporting the music or helping to bring the music to life, keep them in the conversation just as much as you keep the artists in the conversation.
Oh, I think that's a great answer. And that's true. Because I use Amazon Music. And I'm usually like clicking the button to try to see like who's behind the songs, and it's not always there. Even sometimes like people who are featured on songs, I can't find who it is that's doing another verse or rapping on it. So that's a great response.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just to kind of summarize this discussion, what would be and you may have said this already, but I feel like repetition is always good if that's the case. What would be one or two important things that you would really want us to know about gender representation in the music industry?
Find that there are more women and non-binary people who are this work of producing and engineering than actually get the credit for it. And know that if you are interested in, I don't know, closing the gender pay gap, for example, credits like for a producer and engineer, they directly lead to more work opportunities. You know, difference between a mixer working on like 50 independent records to make what they would make on maybe one or two label records. So just I'd close with that. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. This episode is sponsored by Lay's Rum Cakes, where you can get delicious rum cakes made with Southern charm and most of all love. Visit me at laysrumcakes.com or in person every fourth Saturday at the Jericho Market in DC, where you can try all 6 flavors and even my Crown Peach Cobbler. Check me out. Okay, so now we're at my favorite part of the show. I say that every episode, the lyrics part. And I was so excited to get to this part with you. You're actually the second guest that I've had that actually creates their own music. And so I've been listening. I bake. So I listen to whatever, pretty much everything that is up in Amazon Music. I heard it because I played you while I was baking, and it was so nice, and it was just like I was grooving and flowing. You have a beautiful voice, so beautiful. So first I'm gonna tell you the songs that stuck out to me the most, but I'll ask you some questions to kind of have you tell us about your music. So I'll say this song on your album Gold, Since Yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
No one has ever said those words to me, ever.
Really?
Wow.
That's the one where you're like, I'm a beast, right?
And I know it.
Yeah, I love that. And it's like it, because I'm really big on like affirmations and all those kind of things, and it's like, yeah, you know, everything that's meant for me was already written yesterday. And so I was like, that one, I was like, yes, I listened to it a few times.
That makes me, I wrote that song for that purpose. And so there's one line in there, I don't know if Nikki Giovanni is going to come looking for her royalties or not, but it's a rip off of Ego Trippin', and the line says, even my mistakes are correct. Even my mistakes are correct. Yeah, and but as a little kid, like I was in this dance troupe called DC Youth Ensemble, and we, you know, had all these like performances, like, and we had this routine where we had to like recite the poem. And I just, every time we, like as a child, just saying that to like to yourself, like even my mistakes are correct. Like that's when you, I think it hits you at times as an adult when you really need it, when you're really doubting yourself, when you're really wondering like, did I mess up? Is this, you know, the end or whatever? No, like just let it play out.
Yeah.
see how it's gonna work out.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. And especially what you were saying about like at childhood, like if I had that kind of phrase running through my head when I was a kid, man. Yes. And then let's see, the other ones, these are from your more recent
Mhm.
Flawed Logic. That sounds like a coming back from the pandemic type of song. I love
Yeah,
it too. It's like, I got your little email talking about welcome back. That's exactly how I felt.
because listen,
Ready.
anyway, I got your little email.
Yeah.
I was like, thank you. Somebody, I really appreciate this because I don't, it's rare that I get to have these types of conversations
Mhm.
about the music. But I had a friend into the studio before I released Counter Narratives, which is the project that Flawed Logic is on.
Mhm.
And she heard all the songs. And at the end, she was like, this is for Black women. You did this for us. Like,
Mhm.
this whole project is for us. Like, you know what? Maybe I did. But no, I mean, so many people, we got into a groove. We fixed, first of all, survived, number one, in our
Mhm.
right minds relatively, got into a groove, figured out, our little rooms or, excuse me, houses or apartments. And then we got these emails saying, yeah, so it's kind of deadly outside, but come
Yeah.
on back to the office anyway. I was just like, I don't know about that one, boy, but so
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, you're right. It was about that moment in the pandemic. So I in the pandemic, yeah, you saying that took me back to the email.
I remember that email. So I remember getting those. And then the other one was Brunch. Brunch is such a sultry, fun, kind of sexy song. I love that one too. And another reason I like that one so much, so when I was like looking you up, I saw this interview that you did with one of the news channels, and
Mhm.
you were answering some questions about the song, and you were like, very smiley and everything, and then you started singing it, and when you started singing that song, it was like the quickest shift of like a persona that I had seen. It was like you went into this, like, I don't know, diva or something. It was beautiful.
Thank you. Let me ask you something because I might be able to tell you why. In that interview, was I like in a studio? Like, was I wearing like a goldish leopard print type of shirt? If I was in the studio,
I think
my
so, because you were
grandmother
playing.
was there with me.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm. And my grandma, I love her to pieces. She's my spirit. She's just my spirit. But she was there, and I don't know, having her in the room, I just felt like I need to, really be the
Ah.
diva my grandmama is. So I think like she gives me so much life.
Mhm.
Uh,
Oh, that's great to know. That's good, 'cause I
yeah.
I was watching and I went, "Ooh."
Yeah.
So, for you, so those are the ones that stuck out to me. And there were quite a few that I liked, but I was like, I won't take up the whole time talking about
Oh,
your
I'm
music.
so glad you like this music.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's very beautiful. I guess I'll ask you first if you can kind of describe what you feel like your style of music is, and then maybe like if you have any like favorite song. I don't know if that's a hard thing to answer, or even project.
Of mine?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I think I'm gonna work backwards. I think my favorite project is always the one that I'm doing
Okay,
at
that
the
makes
moment. because I have to be just head over heels with that to give it. It's like I don't have kids, but I assume it's like having a kid or preparing for a child to come into the world. You just want to
Mhm.
make sure you have everything in place and you're doing right by it at all times. So it's always my favorite. So the one that's happening now or next. Um, what is my style of music? I had to like come clean recently with this like this very topic because I remember when I first started making music, um, I think at a high level, and like I got the Grammy nomination, and I was kind of out doing a bunch of media stuff, and I remember bending my answers to in an attempt to relate to whoever was on the other side of the camera, like whoever was watching TV at home, and I would say things like, "Oh, Sade, and so," and I was never satisfied with those answers because they were like only partially accurate, and I was so concerned with being like not cool. So, but if I'm honest with myself, my some of my favorite music in the world is it's like just those old school like Quiet Storm songs, but equally it's like the Radioheads, the Alanis Morissette, Feel. You cannot. I can't listen to Feel without crying. All right, just can't happen. Pat Metheny, probably like my just a musician who I don't know him personally, but his music I think is my parents used to play when I was in my mother's womb. My dad used to put like headphones on my mom's tummy,
Mhm.
but he always played Pat Metheny. And I'll tell you something like I I'd never seen him live before. Like a couple of years ago, I went to the Strathmore, which is a venue near DC, to hear Pat. And my dad was also there, sitting in another section, which I'm really glad that was the case because it was the I think it was the Orchestrion tour, Pat Metheny's Orchestrion tour. But anyway, Pat came out, the guitarist. So he comes out from backstage, the lights dim, he sits down to do this like solo, and I just start bawling, just crying for this man has said no words other than thank you. He just sat down and go like all like shirt drenched, had no idea why I was having that emotional reaction. And then, intermission, and I saw my dad in the hallway, and I like told him what happened. He was like, "Oh, well, maybe because of experiences, musical experiences you had before birth.
Mm.
Maybe there's something there."
Mm.
So I think I don't know if I'm reaching that. I just like I love music, but there's just certain music that is my like sweet spot. And there's this if I had to say, if there's a song I can always listen to feel fantastic or just to smile, it would definitely be a Bright Size Life by I think it's like the Pat Metheny group or Pat Metheny's Bright Size Life. Every time I hear that song, it's a brand new world. Every time I hear that song, so that one and Third Wind. Those are my favorite songs. Same artist.
Okay. And so since this is African American Music Appreciation Month, and we're talking about women, Black women in music, who are a few dope female artists that you're listening to right now?
Mm. Uh, Chelsea, the Green Project. So Chelsea I think she plays violin and viola. She's also a vocalist. Love her. Definitely checking out the new Janelle Monáe. Shout out to her.
Mhm.
Um, Beyonce, I'm always going to listen to Black Parade Black Parade,
Yeah.
Sorry, Plastic Off the Couch Sofa. These three songs,
Yes.
I'm always going to like hear these and love these. Always listening to Michelle Ndegeocello, especially the project. She has a song called Dirty World.
Mhm.
I'll give you some names. I said two or three, but I'll give you some names of just Black women who
Okay.
make music. Who Samara Joy, her voice, just Samara Joy. Betty Carter, who's no longer with us, but
Mhm.
definitely just a gem. Yeah, and then whoever Spotify sends. I actually I really like Tiwa Savage. I
Mhm.
like Tiwa Savage's music. I don't know if I'm mispronouncing her name or not. She's like really dope. And if we're going that way, my nieces and nephew love. Oh, I'm looking for my Johnny. What is her name? I can see her face. Oh, it'll come to me. But she's like besties with Angelique Kidjo, who also I'm always listening. So yes, these women. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a great. Those are great lists.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Okay. Now you already kind of told us in the lovely story with your dad and the concert, the songs that kind of brighten your day. But and if it's the same one, totally fine. But tell me any song or even lyrics that have lifted you when things are difficult.
Okay, definitely gonna be a Michael Franks song. Yeah, or is it gonna be like a Stephen Sondheim? Okay, this is what I'm gonna tell you. I
Okay.
also love like Sondheim, Sweeney Todd. Favorite thing, which is, I mean, not my favorite thing, but like, okay, I don't know the name of the song, but it's a song in the score. It's at the end of the production where Mrs. Lovett, Sweeney Todd, they're in the basement and like he confronts her and she's like pleading. I don't know if you know the production, but like she has basically like whacked his wife. And there's a line that it's not a lyric, it's just a melodic line. It's like, no, no, not lied at all. No, I never lied. It's just like the whole thing is that whole package right there, that whole, passage right there. I love it. Just the interplay of the two voices and like I love that moment. Michael Franks, love Michael Franks. Thank you, WHUR Quiet Storm, for introducing me to that man's music. Wonderful songwriter.
Mhm.
So many songs like that make me laugh and just feel good because the storytelling. Sometimes, like he does the love thing. Every artist, a lot of artists do the love thing, but he also just does the funny. Just also he makes like mundane life moments come alive in like a super like light, airy, fun, like no pressure kind of way. And I think that's why his music has always been like a source of like peace or like refuge or just lightheartedness. So like, okay, Michael Frank, Popsicle Toes, Rainy Night in Tokyo, When Sly Calls, so many songs.
Yeah. Whatever's on
So
your
many
heart.
songs. just so many songs. Oh, yeah, you got to get into that.
Okay.
The Whispers.
Oh, the Whispers.
Oh man, Power of Power. I also like rated my dad's CD collection or cassette collection. You weren't allowed to do that as a kid. Don't touch my CDs. Don't touch. Yeah, a lot of that stuff, like Bob Marley, but yes, for the lyric.
Well, only if you have a lyric.
I had all of them. That's the
Oh, yeah.
problem. Like, there's so many. Ooh. I think like if there are any lyrics that always mean something deep to me, it's Sizzla, Solid as a Rock. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They used to play those on the Chevy commercials back home.
Oh
So,
yeah?
yeah. Or maybe it was Like a Rock. One of
Like
those.
a Rock. Oh, yes, a different song. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I don't know if this might be the same songs. What would you say is a song or a lyric that best represents you when you are at your best?
One of my songs?
It could be your song or any song that you feel like represents you when you're at your best.
You're gonna laugh.
Okay.
I want to explain this song. There is a song called Montana,
Mm-hmm.
and it's by Frank Zappa.
Mm.
I think it's from like the 70s. And George Duke is like on the synths, and the band is crazy. And this song is about absolutely, it's definitely a WTF situation. Like, what are you talking about? But you asked me for a song that represents who I am at my best. And I think when I'm at my best, I am not afraid of criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at my best, I'm unafraid of criticism, and at the same time, fully engaged in just the pursuit of my, like, just, whatever I'm doing, like fully engaged in it and like trying to make it the best it can be, which is to say, the lyrics of that song are kind of, I don't want to call them nonsensical, but they're whimsical.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a fun element, but if you listen to the music, it is so precise. It is so serious. The music is nuts. It's so wonderful that way. So I that's why I chose that one.
Okay, that's interesting. You're giving me a lot of songs that I haven't heard before, so I'll be interested
So
to.
you're like, what is this?
Okay, so last question. It's summertime.
Mm-hmm.
Who or what song are you listening to or playing at the cookout?
Black Parade, Beyonce.
Okay.
I mean, it's a cookout. You can't have a cookout without Frankie Beverly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Let's see. All right, so when the sun finally sets and we're just kind of sitting out with our glasses full, maybe at that point it's like some Luther.
Mm-hmm.
It's whatever's on the local radio station, to be honest. And maybe like Afro beats too.
Okay.
Definitely Burna Boy. Definitely like it's a Burna Boy summer for sure. Yeah. It's always a Rihanna.
Yeah.
It's always a Oh Donna, what's my name? It's always Man Down. I don't know if that's the of that other song, but it's always Only Girl in the World. It's always, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was good. And I think the sound engineering you came out, you gave us like the scenery and music with it. I love that. Well, Carolyn, this has been such a good time. I've been enjoying the conversation. You taught me some new things because I didn't know what sonification and blockchain technology was ahead of time, and some new music. And I really appreciate that I was able to learn a little more about your vision and your thoughts behind your own beautiful music as well. So, thank you for being on my show. I appreciate you for giving us your time, and I hope that you'll come back and join us. Can you tell people where they can find you?
Yes, and thank you for the excellent question. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I think the best way to the Instagram, so that would be at Carolyn Malachi, which is CarolynMalachi.
Thank you so much, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of the day. I hope that you enjoyed this episode with Professor Carolyn Malachi and talking about Black women in music. As you move through your day, check out her music. Think about how you can support other women who are in music, producing the music, and putting together all of this wonderful art for us. Until the next time, see you later.